Hi, welcome to lesson 2 in Zohar. Just to recap very quickly, last lesson we spoke about creation. I took you through the beginning of the creation story from the Torah, and we related it to the sefirot, the vessels of creation, the spiritual worlds, and as they descend into the physical worlds, and how all of these relate to our own personalities and characters based on the sayings from the first verse. God said, God made, God saw, and God making up all these diagonals represented by the letters, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. These being energies of God that transfer from vessel to vessel, that permit us to function, our souls to function in our bodies, our intellectual soul and our emotional souls, and to give effect to our own characters and God's presence in the world. We're now going to move on to the second lesson here, and now we're going to actually start in the Zohar proper. You can see I've introduced a new series of trees, and we're going to relate these trees to this original tree. And this is actually this tree here, you can see, is based on different worlds. There are 4 worlds in Kabbalah. The highest world being the world of Atzilus, which is the most spiritual world. This is the world that is indistinguishable from the God being, the Godhead. Then we have Bria, which is the world of creation, where creation emanates. Then you have Yetzirah, which is the world of formation, where ideas come into being, become formed, and finally you come into Asiya, which is the physical world down below. This forms a long chain of events called Seder Hishtalshalut, which is the order of creation, of manifestation into the world in which we live. So starting with Zohar, we're going to read through here. At the head of potency, the king, authority of the king, he engraved engravings, sefirot. These are these individual vessels here, or the individual vessels as they chain down into the physical world. In luster on high, a spark of impenetrable darkness flashed within the concealed of the concealed. This being Keter. You can see Keter here is the crown, Keter here being the highest vessel, the highest of the chain. From the head of infinity, a cluster of vapor forming in formlessness, thrust in a ring, not white, not black, not red, not green, no color at all. These are all the emanations that come from the infinite Godhead. The infinite is known as the Ein Sof, the never end. As a chord surveyed Kav, it yielded radiant colors. So what the Zohar is referring to here is this chain of events that essentially forms the array of light. This is descriptive of the rays of light, spiritual light, that emanate from the infinite source, which is beyond this first world of Atzilus. And as I said, this world is being indistinguishable from the Godhead. And in Hebrew that is known as Hashem, which is spelled with a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. It's an unpronounceable name, so we say Hashem, which means the name. Essentially, the name is the way that we refer to God as Jews. And this is at the highest level of these spiritual worlds. So this chain, which flows down as a ray ultimately manifests in our physical world. Deep within the spark gushed a flow, splaying colors below, concealed within the concealed of the mystery of Ein Sof, the infinite, the never end, the no end. It split and did not split. Its aura was not known at all until, under the impact of splitting, a single concealed supernal point shone. Reshit Chochmah. Now, Reshit Chochmah, if you remember how we started the Torah, Bereshit, bara et Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God formed heaven and the earth. Or beginning formed God heaven and earth. There's many ways of reading that, but essentially, Reshit is Chochmah. Reshit is wisdom. Reshit is the highest supernal point into which the infinite passes light to the beginning of the finite. And that supernal point is considered to be Chochmah, wisdom. Beyond that point, nothing is known. So it is called Reshit, beginning, first command of all. So this is describing this point from the crown, Keter, which is within the flash, within the concealed of the concealed. This is a concealed Ein nothingness, absolute nothingness. From this Ein Sof, this connection to the Ein Sof, the without end, the infinite source, the highest name of God, as we call in English, this infinite being. From there flows an energy which begins in the vessel of Chochmah, wisdom. And from that energy, we can relate that energy to, let's say, the flash of insight, something that, an idea that suddenly comes to you. And it's very insightful, and it really enlivens you. It causes you to think about it. And really be motivated, inspired to do something about it. And in order to do that, you must understand what that flash of insight is. You have to grapple with it. You have to really start to bring it down to the next vessel, which is understanding, to a palace, a womb. So you have to give birth to this idea, this flash of insight that comes from this absolute nothingness through the vessel of wisdom. And this begins the emanation, the flow through to all of the vessels in the highest spiritual worlds. And as they come down in those emanating worlds to the creation, and finally to the formation, and ultimately to the realization in the physical world. This is essentially the foundation for Kabbalah, and each of these vessels, as you can see in the higher intellectual vessels, represent this point of wisdom, this absolute nothingness, this connection to God, the wisdom, the flow to the womb, to the place where this wisdom is understood, is grappled with, is analyzed. And then from here, it flows to, in multiple paths, different paths, to enlighten the emotional soul, where you have the emotive aspects of chesed, love, gevurah, din, judgment, discipline, where you have the synthesis of love and discipline in the aspect of sefirot, which is beauty, balance, compassion, and from there into the path of realization, which is humility, in order to not interfere with this synthesized emotion, and finally to netzach, to the realization, to netzach, to the drive to realize, and then the humility to allow the purest idea to flow through into this vessel of Yesod, the foundation, and from the foundation into Malchut, which is the kingdom, the realization of these ideas in the real world. And that is how essentially most of the spiritual worlds can be translated in our way, in the ways that human beings can connect with these ideas in a real sense. And of course, they also apply throughout in a much more spiritual sense, as the soul connects to the idea of kingship, of very spiritual worlds, the angelic worlds, the places where these spiritual impediments and spiritual motivating factors drive through this chain until they come into our individual souls, and we give rise to those aspects in the world. Of course, we have free choice. Free choice is fundamental here, and we'll get to that in the subsequent lessons. Thank you.